10 Most Dangerous Countries in the World. Traveling the world can be an exhilarating experience, stepping into new cultures, exploring unfamiliar landscapes, and meeting diverse people. However, travelers and researchers alike must also be aware of the risks associated with certain destinations. In this video, we delve into the 10 most dangerous countries in the world. Ranked based on factors like political instability, armed conflict, humanitarian crises, and security risks, these nations present significant challenges to locals and visitors alike. While understanding these risks is vital, it's equally important to recognize these countries' historical and cultural richness, as well as the resilience of their people. Join us as we explore these regions in detail, highlighting the complexities of their situations, their impact on global peace, and what travelers ought to know before considering any travel plans. Before we dive into the list, let's outline how this ranking is determined. Danger is subjective and can depend on specific contexts, but the factors we focus on are armed conflicts, whether large-scale wars or internal insurgencies; political instability, including transitions of government, ethnic tensions, or civil unrest. 3. Risks to individual safety, such as terrorism, crime, or piracy. Humanitarian challenges like poverty, famine, disease outbreaks, or high displacement rates. Security conditions for travelers, including restricted zones, lack of infrastructure, or targeted violence against foreigners. These factors combine to paint a picture of the volatile situations in these 10 countries, offering insights for academic research and practical travel safety awareness. Let's begin our countdown. Iraq, a nation that boasts a rich historical legacy as the cradle of civilization, continues to struggle with the aftermath of decades of conflict. In recent years, the country has faced the remnants of terrorism, particularly from groups like ISIS, which continue to operate in isolated pockets. Although the Iraqi government has made significant progress in stabilizing its main cities, sporadic violence and political unrest still plague some regions. Urban areas like Baghdad and Mosul face varying safety challenges. Travelers caught in the crossfire of sectarian tensions or insurgent attacks risk harm, making parts of the country dangerous for visitors. Political protests and economic instability sometimes escalate into violence, further complicating efforts to protect civilians and tourists. Despite these risks, Iraq offers unmatched historical and cultural treasures, such as the ancient ruins of Babylon and the city of Erbil. While exploring these sites may appeal to intrepid travelers or researchers, it's crucial to consult up-to-date safety advisories and exercise caution. Sudan has long dealt with daunting socio-political challenges, transitioning from years of dictatorship to a fragile partial democracy. After a protracted civil war that led to the secession of South Sudan in 2011, Sudan has continued to face intercommunal violence and clashes between government forces and rebel groups. Several internal conflicts currently make the country dangerous, particularly in regions like Darfur and Kordofan. While political reforms have brought hope, ongoing violence continues to displace millions of citizens, leaving large sections of the population impoverished and desperate for aid. Travelers face risks due to the unpredictable nature of these conflicts, and access to many regions is limited. It's always advisable to stay informed about diplomatic developments and humanitarian conditions, as these directly influence travel safety in Sudan. Somalia is synonymous with persistent instability. Since the collapse of its central government in 1991, the country has been in a near-constant state of unrest. Armed groups like al-Shabaab continue to control significant portions of the country, orchestrating attacks in both urban centers and rural areas. This makes Somalia one of the riskiest places for foreign visitors. Piracy off the Somali coast became infamous in the early 2000s. While international efforts have reduced the frequency of pirate attacks, the risk remains significant. On land, fragile governance limits the capacity to enforce security, and basic infrastructure remains underdeveloped, further complicating daily life for locals and any daring travelers. Despite these challenges, Somalia is home to a vibrant culture and breathtaking landscapes. For researchers or aid workers interested in Somalia, it's critical to travel under expert guidance and keep safety considerations as the top priority. Known for its history, architecture, and vibrant culture, Ukraine has faced devastating turmoil due to large-scale armed conflict. Since 2014, tensions have escalated between Ukraine and neighboring Russia, culminating in an intense war that began in 2022. The conflict has inflicted severe suffering on Ukraine's population. Civilians face risks in conflict zones, particularly in eastern Ukraine, where fighting is heaviest. Urban areas have been significantly impacted, with infrastructure damaged and access to essential services disrupted. The war has also had global implications, including strains on diplomacy and international energy supplies. For foreign visitors or researchers, traveling to Ukraine currently requires significant caution. Only safer regions should be explored under reliable guidance, as humanitarian conditions and the fluidity of conflict make safety concerns highly unpredictable. Russia, one of the world's largest and most geopolitically significant nations, also appears on this list due to its complex internal and external challenges. The nation has been the source of considerable controversy on the global stage, particularly concerning its involvement in neighboring conflicts and growing internal dissent. Traveling in Russia carries risks related to geopolitical tensions and frequent restrictions imposed by the government. Foreign visitors may encounter legal or cultural obstacles, particularly when engaging in activities deemed controversial by authorities. Additionally, certain regions near conflict zones, such as areas bordering Ukraine, carry elevated risks of violence. Although Russia holds immense cultural and historical allure, from the grandeur of Moscow to the beauty of St. Petersburg, its current political climate makes travel planning critical. Thorough research and awareness are essential for anyone considering visiting this vast nation. The Democratic Republic of the Congo, DRC, is a land of stunning natural beauty and valuable resources, but remains one of the most unstable countries. Numerous armed groups operate within its borders, making security highly unpredictable. This instability disproportionately affects civilians, leading to widespread displacement and serious humanitarian crises. Resources like clean water and basic healthcare are scarce in many regions, intensifying the challenges faced by locals. For travelers, especially those venturing into rural or conflict-affected areas, the risks cannot be overstated. Despite its challenges, the DRC is home to extraordinary biodiversity, including the famous mountain gorillas in Virunga National Park. However, visiting such sites must be approached with caution and under expert guidance to ensure safety. Declared the world's youngest country in 2011, South Sudan has faced persistent instability since its independence. Ethnic violence, disputes over resources, and political tensions have led to a constant state of unrest, with large-scale displacement of citizens being one of the most visible consequences. Poverty and underdevelopment are widespread across South Sudan, limiting access to basic services such as healthcare, education, and clean water. Armed clashes between rebel groups and government forces further compound safety concerns for locals and travelers alike. While South Sudan's countryside features breathtaking landscapes, including vast swamplands and wildlife reserves, exploring the nation is not without significant risks. Researchers and humanitarian workers are advised to proceed with meticulous planning and safety measures. Few countries have seen as much prolonged devastation as Syria. Once a thriving nation celebrated for its ancient architecture and rich heritage, Syria has been ravaged by a civil war that began in 2011. Over a decade of conflict between government forces, rebel groups, and extremist factions has left the country in ruins. The ongoing conflict has displaced millions of civilians internally and forced many into neighboring countries as refugees. Certain parts of Syria remain under militant control, and everyday safety concerns, from airstrikes to kidnappings, persist. For potential travelers, the risks far outweigh the rewards. While Syria's historical sites like Palmyra and Damascus speak to its incredible heritage, the tragically unstable conditions are a dire reminder of the cost of war. Until significant stabilization occurs, safety considerations make travel to Syria infeasible for most. Yemen is in the midst of one of the worst humanitarian crises in the world today. A civil war that erupted in 2014 has devastated the population, with access to food, clean water, and medical aid becoming increasingly limited. The conflict involves multiple factions, with external powers influencing the violence. Bombings, ground battles, and blockades have heavily impacted civilian areas, leaving devastating consequences for daily life. For travelers, Yemen presents immense risks. Restricted access, targeting of civilians, and deteriorating infrastructure make it nearly impossible to navigate safely. Humanitarian organizations are working to provide relief to Yemeni civilians, but the needs far exceed the available resources. Topping the list as the most dangerous country is Afghanistan, a nation that has endured decades of conflict. Following the resurgence of the Taliban in 2021, security concerns have worsened as extremist groups reassert control over various regions. Civilians face widespread poverty, systemic oppression, and limited access to basic services. Afghanistan's rich cultural and historical heritage, as seen in sites like the Bamiyan Buddhas, remains overshadowed by ongoing violence. Traveling to Afghanistan poses significant risks, including targeted violence against foreigners, attacks from insurgent groups, and restricted movement within the country. Until stability returns, travel here remains fraught with peril. The 10 nations on this list serve as stark reminders of the challenges faced by our global community. The lives of millions in these countries are shaped daily by instability, conflict, and a lack of basic security, factors that also pose immense risks for travelers. However, it's crucial to move beyond fear and observe these countries not as mere danger zones, but as places with resilient populations and a wealth of cultural history to be valued and respected. As travelers, researchers, or global citizens, we must approach such realities with both caution and empathy. Whether you're studying these regions or planning humanitarian projects, gaining a deeper understanding of their context is the first step towards responsible engagement. By promoting awareness and supporting international efforts, we contribute to a brighter future for people living under such unimaginable hardship. Stay informed, be respectful, and always prioritize safety whenever considering travel to high-risk destinations.